First, it is new, and that means it's a time to remind the good people of the world that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, unquestioned, undeniably. Right now, brand new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use with a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And with that, we welcome in our Hall of Famer. Our Hall of Famer. I forgot to hit the button. It is Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer. What's up, Kay?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Mary Kay.
Before we start, since you're a Hall of Famer, Mary Kay, did they give you a gold jacket or a ring or a bracelet or anything to let people know, or a license plate to say I'm a Hall of Famer? What did they give you for that?
Well, right now I'm in the Cleveland Press Club Hall of Fame, not in the regular Hall of Fame in Canton yet, but hopefully that will happen over the next few years.
Oh, it'll happen.
So you get a key
it will happen, Mary
key to the city?
I'm hoping for a gold jacket or maybe some kind of a gold dress.
There you go.
Actually, it'd be nice.
I love it. That's awesome. We don't really, Hall of Famers don't hang out with us.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of lowbrow company. So whenever we have a Hall of Famer on, we're all enamored by it. So what are your thoughts as this team gets ready to turn the page to the Ravens? This, for me, you know, when the schedule comes out, there's like 5 or 6 that jump off of it. Obviously, the divisional games are there, but this year, because the Ravens have proven sort of to be the standard in the division, I think this is as big as the Niners game, probably bigger because it is divisional. What's your take on where the Browns are and how they're situated going into this?
I think it is bigger than the Niners game, as you mentioned, because it is a huge AFC North battle. The Ravens are just humming along. They're playing so well this year. Lamar has taken his game to a new level under Todd Monk, and so he's playing really, really well. And that defense, my goodness, they are putting the clamps on offenses. They are #1 in allowing about 13 points a game only, and they lead the NFL with 35 sacks. They're coming from everywhere. I think the Ravens are going to be playing with their hair on fire. I think the Browns are going to be so fired up for this game. It will be playoff intensity. And I think it's good for them that they kind of warmed up against the Cardinals, and they got, they're feeling good about themselves as they head into this game. They shouldn't feel too good about themselves because they just beat a 1-8 team, but there still is something to be said for heading into Baltimore with a little bit of swag, feeling like you can take on the world.
Mary Kay, what about the offensive line? Obviously, Jay Wills went down. What do you think the logical next move for them to take so they can be ready for Baltimore?
Well, they do have some options, but I think what I would do in this situation, and I don't know, we'll know a little bit more maybe when we get out to practice tomorrow. Today, of course, is their off day. But what I would do is I would probably just plug James Hudson in there at left tackle and let the other players continue to play to their strengths. I would keep DeJuan Jones where he is over there at right tackle. I would keep Joel Bitonio, who has played some left tackle, where he is at left guard. Because I'll tell you what, these Baltimore Ravens are so strong all the way across that line that it almost doesn't matter where you have your guys. I mean, you've got to be stout all the way across. And, the guys in the middle, Roquan Smith and those guys are really, really strong as well. So this is a really, really formidable Baltimore Ravens defense. I would put James in over at left tackle and then just give him some of the help that he's probably going to need.
Mary Kay, me in the panel, we're talking about this a little bit earlier. And this game against Baltimore, we talked about the fan base actually getting behind Deshaun Watson and trying to silence some of the detractors that may be in the fan base. Well, if he can go into a hostile environment in Baltimore with a defense like this and play well and get a win, I think this could be a marquee signature win for Deshaun Watson that really shows, the people of Cleveland what type of quarterback he is, especially given the way they're playing defensively in Baltimore. And you get a share of the AFC North lead if you do go in there and win that football game.
Yeah, there's so much at stake here, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about Deshaun Watson heading into this game. I think he can't make it too big for himself. I think he's got to stay right within himself and not put too much pressure on himself in this game as though it's Super Bowl or bust if he doesn't win this game. So I think he's got to continue to build on what he did last week. It was a good confidence booster for him to see that he could let it rip a little bit, complete a 59-yarder, complete a 49-yarder. But if he puts too much pressure on and starts pressing, he's going to make mistakes because you can't get away with those kinds of things against the Baltimore Ravens. They will make you pay. And there are other players back in this game that didn't even play in the first game, like Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams. So these guys are going to be, pretty strong, pretty stout. And, I think Deshaun is going to have to make sure that he stays under control and he keeps that poise. We've seen games where he's gotten flagged and, he's got to be the leader. They have to be able to look to him and see that he is cool, calm, collected, poised, and that he just has the belief and knowledge that he can go out and beat this team in the way that he knows that he can.
All of that being said, Mary Kay, we were talking about it earlier, and G had made the point that there's still a lot of criticism of Deshaun Watson. And, I went through the litany of reasons probably why. First of all, his play has not been what fans expected. He replaced a polarizing Baker Mayfield, who, say what you will, ended the drought and led the team to a playoff victory over Pittsburgh. And I hear what you're saying. You can't make any game too big because you're just adding pressure. But in our discussion of how he wins this fan base over, I said it's simple. It's winning games like this. I mean, this is a critical game, and I know he's not going to downplay it in his mind, but we also can't make it less than what it is. He was brought here to take this team to a Super Bowl. You can't take this team to a Super Bowl if you don't get past Baltimore. And I think that, this is it for him. He's got to play well in games like this.
Well, this is the reason why you paid him $230 million to come here to the Cleveland Browns and get this team to the Super Bowl. So, yes, these are the very games that you have to win. But the point that I am trying to make, and I feel very strongly about this, is the fact that Deshaun can't get outside of himself. He's got to play within himself because that's when he will be at his best. That's when he will get in the zone. If he gets rattled like he did in Pittsburgh after that first interception and when Nick Chubb went down, if he gets rattled at all in this game, and they're going to try to rattle him, then he will not be at his best. And remember, he's only one game back from a strained rotator cuff. And, it's good for him that he got the confidence that he needed against the Cardinals. But, he's still probably a little bit shaky. And we saw that on a lot of those shorter passes. So if some of those shorter passes go like that again, because you never know how this rotator cuff is going to respond. It seemed like he could let it rip and open it up on some of the longer passes, but struggled on some of the shorter ones. They're going to make him get the ball out quickly. They're going to pressure the heck out of him. And by all means, they are going to try to hit him and get him as rattled as they possibly can. They're going to disrupt this quarterback. I'll tell you what, that's what they're going to try to do. And they're going to try to use James Hudson to do it and anybody else that they possibly can. And Deshaun Watson has got to stay poised and calm and make the plays that he knows that he can make. And if he does that, then I think he has a chance.
Mary Kay, when you look at the 28-3 loss, what were some of the key things that stood out that you think the Browns have fixed and will be better at moving forward?
Well, they're going to have to be able to stop the run this game, and they did not do that the last game, and it kind of caught them off guard. And then they kind of sprung a leak again in the run game in the previous 3 or 4 games before the Cardinals game. So they're going to have to batten down the hatches there in the run game. And now, as we know, the Baltimore Ravens have a new rookie of the week rusher in Mitchell, who's out there, rushing for 138 yards against the Seahawks. And, so it's going to be very, very challenging for the Browns to be able to stop the run because it's going to come from a number of different places, including, of course, Lamar Jackson. So they're going to have to take care of that. They're going to have to make sure that, now they're going to have Odell Beckham Jr. to contend with, and they didn't have that in the first game. They're going to have a couple of other things that they had to deal with. I think the Ravens are healthier this game, and Lamar is more well-versed in Todd Monken's scheme. Todd is bringing out the well-rounded quarterback in Lamar Jackson. He's turning him into a really nice passer, as you can see there. 71.5 completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. Now, the Browns defense, they are getting takeaways now. They're getting those takeaways, and they're going to have to continue to do that. Miles is going to have a game of his life. He's going to have a game for the ages, a generational edge rusher type of game. I mean, this is going to be the kind of football game where your stars are going to have to shine and come up big.
Mary Kay, one guy that we talked about, you talked about the Baltimore Ravens run game, but the Cleveland Browns rushing attack has been consistent. Still missing the punch that Nick Chubb offered. I've liked Pierre Strong. I think that he's deserved more carries. He did his thing in Seattle, and then the next game against Arizona, it seemed like he only had three carries, and the bulk of the load went to Jerome Ford. Is there a reason Kevin Stefanski is invested in Jerome Ford? Because a lot of people are saying Pierre Strong looks like a guy that could be a back that really runs hard between the tackles and picks up some nice yards.
Well, I think they're trying to some degree to stay true to the fact that Jerome Ford is their lead back, their workhorse back, and they want to give him the opportunity to be everything that he can be. But as you mentioned, Pierre Strong provides speed. He provides good hands out of the backfield, a nice changeup to Jerome, helping to keep Jerome fresh when he's coming off of a high ankle sprain or still dealing with a high ankle sprain. Completely different style than a Kareem Hunt, who is your bruiser and your power back. So I think the three of these guys make a really nice committee, and I think they will be able to keep the Ravens off guard a little bit. So I think they're getting the running game accomplished. I always thought that they would. Nobody can be Nick Chubb in and of themselves, but when you put all these guys together, they are getting the running game accomplished, and they're number 3 in the NFL right now in rushing yards per game. So it seems to be working.
Mary Kay, what is the status on G. New? I mean, Cam Mitchell came in there, and I thought he played very solid. I know he can hold it down against Baltimore, but is G. New coming back this week, or what's that about?
Well, he's going to want to, and if there's any way he can, he will be out there. So, I think he'll have a chance. We'll know more on Wednesday. He's not going to want to miss this game against the Baltimore Ravens. There's no question about that. But you're right. Cam Mitchell graded out really, really well in that game. And, he can hold down that nickel spot. But again, I think that we need to temper the enthusiasm of the performances that we saw against the Cardinals just a little bit, because this is going to be a completely different level of football on Sunday in Baltimore.
Mary Kay, one of the things that we've looked at closely is this defense, and I think it was the top 3 of the top 4 defensive performances in terms of net yards allowed have come from this Browns defense. I keep wondering, have we seen the ceiling to this defense? Because they were missing the turnover element. Now they've thrown the turnovers in there. They're setting the bar pretty high. Can they play any better?
Yes, they can. They absolutely can. And we haven't seen the ceiling for this defense yet. And here's why. Because now other guys are starting to get involved. It's not just the Myles Garrett show, and it shouldn't be. I mean, good for him that he has his 9.5 sacks, and he's firmly in the conversation for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. But when you're a really, really good defense, you get all of these other guys involved, and you spread around all the production, and all the dogs eat, and everybody feels good about themselves. And when they know that they have a chance to go out there and light it up and tear it up, then you're going to get their best games as well. So when you start to see some of these other guys, you saw Dalvin Tomlinson get 2.5 sacks in that game. When you start to see Z get some of his production, then these guys are going to be even more motivated when they go into a football game. So that is where I think you can see that the improvement can still come. And I think it will, especially now that they're getting those takeaways.
It's hard to imagine this defense can get better. But she makes great points. If everything is clicking, then there's still some room for improvement. I hope we see some of that against Baltimore.
Well, speaking of clicking, is this the clicking week for Elijah Moore? I'm still holding out hope, Mary Kay. I stood on this show and said that this dude would be the key of this offense, and I'm waiting. I'm just, please don't make me look bad. Like, come on now, is this the week?
Mary Kay's not going to make you look bad.
No, not Mary Kay. Elijah Moore is, though.
I've been right with you on that, on the Elijah train. I have been right with you because I watched it from day one at the Greenbrier in practice, all the different things that they did with him. And so far, it hasn't popped. It hasn't come yet. He hasn't had his breakout game. But we must remember that the first half of the season had a lot to do with, in the beginning, they were trying to figure out, all right, what do we do with him? How does it work in a game? Let's get in the flow and see how this goes. And then they ran into quarterback problems. So I think the upside is still there for him to have a really, really nice finish to the season. And I think he needs to. If he wasn't going to, then they needed to go out and find another receiver, and they didn't do that. So he's got to elevate his game. They have to find ways to make sure that they're getting him involved. I think a little bit deeper for Elijah Moore is something that, that might work a little bit better for him at times. I would minimize the running for him out of the backfield. I would just focus on the shorter, intermediate, and longer passing game for him. And now Marquise Goodwin is in the concussion protocol, so you're going to need that element of speed. So I would go deep to Elijah Moore a little bit more than they have so far.
Mary, we haven't talked about this a lot because the season is upon us, and in the middle of the season we're really game to game. But when you look at Kevin Stefanski, if the Browns continue to win, and in terms of the quarterback play gets better after all you went through with Nick Chubb and him being out and Deshaun Watson being out as well, and the job he's doing, if the Browns were able to make the playoffs, do you think he is in due for an extension or extension talks, which haven't happened with very many coaches since 1999?
That's for sure. Yeah, I think so. I think he's done a really remarkable job this year, considering everything that's gone on at the quarterback situation. And again, when you look at this football game that they are about to play on Sunday, did anybody think that they would be without their two starting tackles and their four-time Pro Bowl running back in Nick Chubb? I mean, that's those are the pillars of your wide zone running scheme right there. So he's had to pivot a lot, especially in the quarterback situation. But I think he's doing a fantastic job with what he's had to work with. Really held it together during a very, very difficult and challenging time with Deshaun and the rotator cuff. But you got to bring it home. They have to bring it home. This is all, in place right now for them to make the playoffs, and they have to go do that. I think they will. They have a really good chance to do that. But they have to keep going strong.
Mary Kay, obviously this team has struggled with turnovers this year, with taking care of the football. And I think last game, I don't think they had a turnover. What do you accredit that to? Is it because Arizona is not that great of a team, or do you think that they really learn how to take care of the football?
Well, once again, I think we will find out a little bit more about that on Sunday in Baltimore, because they are going to be so aggressive in trying to punch that ball out and trying to pluck that ball out of the air, trying to force those fumbles, get those strip sacks. So we will know the answer to that a little bit more over the next 2 weeks, actually, against the Ravens and the Steelers. But in this past game, I think it was a couple of things. I think that, you had Deshaun Watson back. When you look at the turnovers, the two backup quarterbacks had 8 interceptions in their 4 appearances and 1 lost fumble. So they accounted for 9 of the league-leading 17 giveaways on this football team. So when you get your QB1 back, then, that starts to settle down. But once again, that's another reason why I think Deshaun Watson is going to have to stay within himself in this game so he doesn't start throwing interceptions. That's the last thing they need.
Yeah, they certainly don't need that. He's going to have to take care of the football. Mary Kay, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.